I'm going to keep it very, very brief, a little more brief than I would have been ordinarily. My concept for best practices is and has been for some time developing complementary self-care measures for the entry-level nurse. And in order to support that entry-level nurse, taking care of our students. And I've been a big fan of Catherine Kolkava's comfort theory of nursing. And Kolkava and DeMarco, Goodwin and several other researchers have done a lot of evidence-based practice study on the impact of developing a comfort theory-based nursing education program. And without going into a lot of detail about Kolkava's theory, the basic premise is if we bring the students from a level of ease to a level of transcendence, then to a level of comfort, we're helping them develop coping mechanisms that they can integrate into their daily practice and their daily lives before they get to the nursing units, the nursing floors. I'll tell you a little story. I went into Einstein Hospital about 3 years ago, and a student I had about 7 years ago came running up to me. Didn't even recognize him. He was like a baby when I had him. He was a man. And he said to me, "Do you remember me? Do you remember me?" And I said, "No," because I didn't. He said, "You taught me alternate nostril breathing, guided meditation, and some massage techniques that I use every day. And I'm now the unit manager of a busy med-surg unit at Einstein Hospital." And he said, "I teach my nurses once a year at a staff meeting to utilize these techniques in dealing with their patients." And he's subsequently gone on and developed a hospice business of his own, and he based it on some of these practices. We try and integrate some of these practices into term one and try and add some of the practices throughout the terms, giving them a virtual toolkit that they can carry around with them. I gave to you today cups, water cups for comfort level, hydrating yourselves. And in that cup are a couple little tools. You don't have to open them now. It's a very noisy tool. And so I start by giving them something concrete that they can kind of take. My nursing instructor, my clinical instructor gave this to me. And it seems that that's a very powerful thing, that they gave them something to start caring for themselves with, just conceptually. And it doesn't have to be anything big. You can get the little Chinese food gift cups at the dollar store, 8 to a pack. And in that, I give them directions for alternate nostril breathing, which is very simple, very basic. And I gave you directions in your packets. Some massage, some powerful one-word affirmation things. I also encourage them to add tea, little, whatever their comfort thing is, maybe some mints. So they actually have a physical go-to. I can take care of myself until it becomes part of their lived experience. And for some of us, I need a reminder when I start doing something new to remind myself, I'm going to engage in this behavior. So I give them a little something, and it's surprising, a lot of them still have it at the end of the program. I haven't done it exclusively this year as much, but we started again with the last 2 classes. And they really like it. You always have some that are, not that we've ever seen a student roll their eyes. Or, breathe through their teeth or whatever they do. But we get a lot of engagement. The first thing, I'm going to get right into the practices. My plan is, if we can teach them one self-care technique that they can use that doesn't cost them anything, nobody has to know if they're using or not, and you don't need a lot of knowledge and background to practice it. So what I'm going to do with you today is alternate nostril breathing. And alternate nostril breathing is thought by most healthcare practitioners, particularly Eastern, to be one of the most efficient, quickest ways to bring your parasympathetic nervous system back into control that exists today. A lot of my students are outgoing students. We teach it and remind them to use it during the board. One girl told me, I knew there was another student from our school here because I could hear her. And they're not supposed to do it that loudly. So what you do for this is you're going to sit straight up in your chair, put your feet flat on the floor, about shoulder width height apart. And what that does is give you a tripod stance, because the three-legged stool is a really good solid base for sitting. So what you have is your body and your legs and your seat as your tripod. You sit with your neck long and your chin dropped slightly. And if you would take for a minute and put one hand on your chest and one hand on your abdomen and take a couple normal breaths and see which hand is moving. If we're really honest during the day, we're going to find that our upper hand is moving most, which means every time we're breathing, think of where you breathe when you're scared or running or stressed. It's all up here. When you're breathing down here below the diaphragm in the diaphragmatic area, you're breathing from the parasympathetic nervous system. You're engaging the diaphragm, which engages the parasympathetic nervous system. So one of the things I tell them to do is practice. Go home and lay on your tummy and see if you can get your chest to stay still and your stomach to rise up gently while you're breathing. And I try and get them to start breathing into 4 and out to 4, because that's a normal breathing pattern. So that's one thing you can do. So now I'd like you to put your hands on your thighs, again sitting up straight, and just take a couple cleansing breaths into your nose and out through your nose. And I want you to know that when you're breathing regularly and deeply, you have something called the mini brain right here. And in the turbinates are receptors for a lot of the neurohormones that are activated in our gut, which is a major spot for regulation. We have a lot of the same endocrine neurotransmitters that are secreted through the digestive system that regulate stress and discomfort. We say our gut feeling because 90% of that occurs in our midsection. So when you activate these, you're activating hormones and systems that put the parasympathetic system into overdrive. So that deep breathing in through your nose and out through your nose is actually doing physiological regulation of your body. So that being said, and I'm going to just lead you through this, it might be a little confusing at first. Which foot do I put on the clutch? Which foot do I put on the brake? So what I want you to do is put your hands up and just gently, you're not touching your nose, you're just kind of resting it here. And what you're going to do is take one cleansing breath deeply in, using both sides of your nostrils. I'm going to put a caveat here. If you have high blood pressure, a stuffy nose, or a cardiac problem, you probably shouldn't be doing this right now. So you have your hands up here and you're going to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. And you're going to gently include one side of your nose, breathing in deeply through the alternate nostril. You're going to close off that side, holding that breath, and breathe it out through the other nostril. Then you're going to slowly breathe in through that same nostril, close it off, and breathe out through the alternate nostril. So you're basically going both sides out, one side in, hold, other side out, and in. I gave you directions, and I'm not going to go over and over again here, but a lot of my students say that just in a matter of 2 or 3 breaths, they can feel their heart rate. It's so effective. It's almost like some of my students will just go, you hear that sound. So that to me shows it's a really effective technique. It doesn't cost them anything. A lot of students, if they know the right, you can't give it to a patient with high blood pressure, but they use it for patients' families. And my goal, of course, in my idealistic world that lives in my head, is that we're going to slowly change the culture of nursing, one student at a time, taking that self-care and that self-regulation into the workplace, sharing it not only with other students, but with patients who need coping strategies, patients that don't have any coping strategies. We had a wonderful report by the drug and alcohol care people, and I'd like to give the students and our nurses something before they get to that. And I'll be all wood. So the other things in your little cup, and then I'm going to close. You have a marble. You don't have to take it out right now, but what I have students do is take the marble, and if you have a little tiny bit of lotion, you can do that, but you can do it without anything. And gently roll the marble across your hands. A couple minutes. And we've all had, I hope we've all had the experience of having a hand massage, which is just such a luxury, right? It feels so good, hand or feet. But that gives you a little hand massage. And my son is an acupuncturist at Cancer Treatment Centers. And a lot of the points that he uses, I was showing him the technique, a lot of the points he uses are along here. And he even suggested that they get a bigger marble. You've seen the foot massages, but just get a bigger marble on a rug and rub your foot across it, really gently getting the toes, the heel, the arch, for wellness. So that's just a little thing. They can take it, put in their pocket, tell them if they have small children not to leave it around. And just gently roll that marble really slowly. If you try and do it fast, it gets to be like a cognitive hand-eye coordination thing, which I'm not real good at. So just gently do that. And can I open your mouth? Some of the other things we put in there is, it's really good to teach them guided meditation. It does take a little practice, but instead of doing it big, you're going through the forest and down the steps and that whole thing, which I'd like them to learn, but that takes a little more. I have them imagine themselves passing the test and what it's going to feel like when they pass the test. And what it's going to feel like if they were really ready to pass the test. And what it's going to feel like if they took care of themselves so they would be ready to pass the test. And it's a process. Sometimes it takes the whole program to get it, or they'll call me 6 months later and say, I did it, which is soon enough. I put in here some brightly colored little things, and they can find a word that just makes them feel good. And sometimes it's a reminder. Sometimes they put their children's pictures on there, their baby's pictures, something to remind them how important they are to themselves, their families, what have you. And then of course, on this card I'll put a short affirmation, and I'll give them a formula. My name is, and I am, and you give them 3 things, 3 concrete things, and they stick with it. And that takes a little more practice, because a lot of them, the few I've done with them lately who are having problems in school, a lot of times they end up crying. They end up crying really hard when we try and do this exercise, because they can't imagine, I'm teary here, they can't imagine anybody saying those really great things about them, much less themselves. And sometimes it takes a little while before they can claim those things for themselves. But when they really take them in and take hold, it's a really powerful, powerful experience for them. And I'm hoping that some of these self-care strategies, again in my idealistic Maggie world, will translate to decrease in lateral violence, because they are taking care of themselves. They don't have to engage in things that make them feel better. We can go on and on. The last thing I want to direct your attention to is the coping strategies, and I'm not going to go through them. But I pulled this from a website of the Wales Nursing Society. So I'm not going to go through them, but I think if you take a few minutes on your own time and go through these, it's a phenomenal way to have students break down their stress. It's simple, self-guided, and they can use it for almost any problem. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. In fact, I'm going to wrap up. I also included in this packet the list of some of the references I used in looking for evidence-based practice to support this comfort theory of nursing education. But to wrap up, the whole goal is to make them feel surrounded and supported. And it's not, we can't do it for them. We can't walk around, what happened today? We need them to find ways to debrief themselves and connect with each other and feel like if they don't have any place to go, they can find a way to take care of themselves. And Kolkaba's theory does that. She's working on now expanding it further, but having water, having a place for a safe place for students to talk to each other. There's a whole developing, unfolding process with that. In fact, they're expanding the comfort theory to nurses in hospitals, nurses in institutions, as a way to support and prevent burnout.